Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. So we're continuing our discussion on chapter 7 of the Bhagavad-gita from verse 13. Tribhir gunamaye bhaver ebih sarvamidam jagat mohitam na bijanati mame bhaya paramavyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. So in the previous set of verses, Krishna has spoken about his omnipresence, right? From the 9 verses from verse 4 to 12, Krishna says that I am worthy of your worship. I am distinct from the two energies, the inferior and the superior energy, the material and the jivas. I am everywhere. Madhata paratram nanyat. So the question Arjun might ask, that if you are everywhere, then why does not everyone see you? And Krishna answers this implicit question in 3 verses, 7, 13 to 15, that it is essentially the modes that are covering the jiva that makes it difficult, if not impossible, to see him. Right? So he says, Tribir Guna Mayir. So everyone, Sarvamidam Jagat, he says everyone in this material world is covered by Tribir Guna Mayir. So is covered by the 3 modes. My 3 modes, right? So he's saying that they are all covered by these 3 modes of goodness, passion and ignorance. So the devas are covered by the mode of goodness, and their focus is on sense control, intelligence, they aspire for peace. Then the humans are covered by the mode of passion, and they manifest lust and pride, and they have intense desires. And the asuras are covered by the mode of ignorance. So they manifest lamentation and illusion and are bewildered. So because of this covering of the modes, they are unable to see Krishna. So the result of this covering of the modes is that it makes the jivas envious of Krishna. And because they are envious of Krishna, they consider that just like we are covered by the modes, so is Krishna. So rather than appreciating the exalted platform of Krishna, they try to pull Krishna down to their own level. And many times when we discuss this state of natural envy towards Krishna, people instinctively deny it. Say that, well, it's not true. We are not really envious of Krishna. But really speaking, so Prabhupada would give the example that when a person goes into the prison, then he gets a prison uniform. And the prison uniform is a stark representation of the person's imprisonment. Similarly, when the jiva gets this material body, then it's a stark representation of the jiva's intrinsic envy towards Krishna. In some cases, it is very strong, as we'll see in the later verses, where it appears in the form of atheism or just outright hatred for Krishna. And in some cases, it is more subtle. Okay, so let's look at the next verse. Okay, verse 14. Devi hesha gunamai mammaya duratyaya Mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this is a very famous verse. Prabhupada quoted it often. And it has two parts in it. The first part is the extension of the previous verse, which talks about how the jiva is covered with Maya. So here Krishna is talking about the how difficult it is to transcend that Maya. Right? So he says that Devi Hayesha Gunamaya, that this divine energy of mind. So Devi, two meanings. One, because it is connected to Krishna, it is called Devi, divine. Devi also means enjoyment. So the literal meaning of Deva is those who sport with sense enjoyment. So Devi is derived from that, meaning tendency to enjoy. And Maya, Devi Hayesha Gunamayi Mam Maya Duratyaya. Maya literally means, Ma means no, and Maya means that which is not. So illusion. So Krishna is saying that this enjoyment, this sense of enjoyment, which is actually illusory, is my energy. So Krishna is casting this illusory spell on the jivas, through which they consider material sense enjoyment to be pleasurable. And then he says that it is duratyaya, difficult to overcome. Why? Gunamayi. So Gunamayi Prabhupada translates as three modes of material nature. And then he explains that if there is a single stranded rope, somebody with power can break that. But if you take three strands and intertwine them, and this is a strategy that is used by those who use the ropes to tie things, so they know that when you take strands of ropes and intertwine them, then they're almost impossible to break. So that's what the illusory energy of Krishna is. It is made of three strands: the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So if sometimes somebody is able to transcend ignorance, then passion is there to catch. Somebody transcends passion, then goodness is there to catch. And this cycle continues there. So it is almost impossible to break that. But then Krishna says that Mahameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite, that those who surrender unto me, they can easily cross it. And the reasoning is clear, that since Krishna is the owner of Maya, then he can withdraw Maya. But for those who are covered with Maya, it is difficult to overcome Maya. So if a person is tied by ropes, it is difficult for the person to free himself. But another person who is free can come and quickly untie the person. So that is the potency of surrender to Krishna. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the words Mam Eva are significant. So Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. So why not Brahma and Shiva? Because Krishna says that Devi Aesh Guna Mai, that this energy belongs to, to Krishna. So only the person who owns that has the power to withdraw it. So Prabhupada continues that although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost at the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajogun or Tamogun to release the conditioned clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya, therefore he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 3.8 confirm this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, or freedom is only possible by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnur evana samshaya. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Okay, next verse. Verse 15. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradamaha Mayaya partha jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So we can see how the logic is flowing. That earlier on Krishna said that I am present everywhere. Everything is in me. I am in everything. And then the question is that why can't people see you? And then Krishna says that they can't see me because they're covered with Maya. How to overcome that Maya? Krishna says by surrendering unto me. The question is, why don't people surrender unto you? So the verse over here answers that question. So Krishna in this verse, he talks about 4 kinds of people who do not surrender unto him. So he says, Namam dushkritino. So dush means evil. And kritina means expert. One who knows the scriptures, one who is of advanced intelligence, that is kritina. So dushkritana is people who, even though they know the scriptures, they are of exalted intelligence, but they are still have a evil propensity. So they are the ones who do not surrender to Krishna. So what are the 4 kinds? So the first is Mudha. So Mudha are the materialists. Mudha is also translates as foolish, sometimes used for asses. And the materialists are completely absorbed in material activities. So they follow the path of karma in complete exclusion of the concept of God. So they say activity is supreme. They create activities for themselves, for others, requiring ugra karma, requiring a lot of activity. And essentially, they spend their life working like asses. So one of the qualities of the asses, especially when they're being used in India, at least in earlier times, they were used by the washermen. And they load the asses with lot of heavy loads, work them day and night, and then after a full day of heavy work, they will let them loose and eat the grass. Now the grass is present to them anyway. There was no need for them to work. The washerman does not create the grass. He does not own the grass. They just let them over to the grassy fields. But the asses don't realize that. They think that because I'm working all day and getting beaten by the washerman carrying these heavy loads, I'm getting to eat this grass. So that's the mentality of the materialists, that they work very hard for little pleasures which are available to them anyway. So they think that sometimes they will think that the Lord is, Krishna is like one of the demigods. Sometimes they will think that karma is supreme, and by karma one can attain everything, including the Supreme Lord. Or sometimes they will think that Krishna is also controlled by karma. That just like they themselves are controlled by karma, Krishna is also controlled by karma. So this is the first kind, the Mudhas, the materialists. The second kind is the Naradhamas. So literally it means the lowest amongst mankind, and these are the atheists. So these are described to be the kind of people who in the past have executed some form of bhakti, but because of offenses have given it up. But because of the bhakti that they executed, they have acquired an exalted position. So the Naradhamas are they have a human form of life, and they're born in high Brahman families, in opulent families. They have high intelligence, but they use the same intelligence to prove that there is no God. So these are the atheists. Then is the third kind, which is the Maya Partha Jnana. So these are the mental speculators. So these belong to the categories of the pseudo Vedantists. So they study the Vedas, but they come up with their own conclusions. So these are the Mayavadis. These are the ones that will follow partially Vedas, but subject to their own interpretation. Sometimes people say that I don't want to read purports on the verses because I want to read the verses and interpret them myself. And so what does it mean? That they have so much faith in their own intelligence that they consider the acharyas to be insignificant before them. So they create fraudulent, illogical philosophies under the influence of Maya. Sometimes they will think that there is a difference between Vishnu and Krishna. Right? And this I have seen myself, that they'll say, well, Vishnu is God, but Krishna, he was born, he has two hands, he has parents like us, so clearly he can't be God. So Krishna says that avajanati mamura manushyam tanum ashritam. Later on in the 9th chapter, he will say that they're fools because they think that I have a human body just because of my pastimes. Right? So these are people who are intelligent philosophers, poets, scientists, but they're misusing their intelligence. And the fourth category is the asuram bhavam ashrita. So these are those who adopt the atheistic nature of demons. So these are the impersonalists. So what do the demons do? They try to kill Krishna. So by the arrows, they try to shoot Krishna's body. Asuras like Jarasan, they repeatedly try to break Krishna's body. They try to destroy his form by bad arguments, faulty logic. So while Krishna has presented himself unequivocally as in his Swayam Bhagwan Roop, but they will misinterpret the Vedas, like the followers of Shankaracharya, and say, well, actually Krishna says this, but he doesn't really mean them. So the root cause of all these faulty perceptions is Maya. And Prabhupada says, therefore, these four kinds of people, the materialists, the atheist, the mental speculators, and the impersonalists, they will never surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead in spite of all scriptural and authoritative advice. Okay, going to the next verse. Verse 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janah sukritinurjuna artho jigna surarthati jnani cha bharatarshava. O best among the Bharats, four kinds of pious people, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. So in the previous set of verses, Krishna has been talking about those who are unable to surrender to him. And Arjun may ask that if everybody is covered by Maya, then what hope there is? So his Krishna says, no, there is hope. Just like there are four kinds of people that do not surrender to me, there are four kinds that do surrender to me. So he says, Jana Sukritano Arjuna. Previously he had called the four kind of people as Dushkritana, whose intelligence was evil. Now he calls these four kind of people Sukritana, because their intelligence is pious. Right? So what are the four kinds? He talks about the Arthaha. So Arthaha means one who is desiring relief from enemies. Right? So the distressed. So one is distressed because of the attacks of various enemies. So that is the Arthaha. The second is so the example of Arthaha is Gajendra. So we know that Gajendra was captured by a crocodile, and gradually the crocodile was pulling it to its death, and then Gajendra started worshipping Lord Vishnu. Right? So this is the category of Artha. Then the second is Jigyasur. So Jigyasur is inquisitive. The inquisitiveness is transcendental. The inquisitiveness is desiring the nature of to know the nature of the soul, the super soul, the distinction between the body and the soul. So Shaunak Rishi, the chief spokesperson for the rishis at Naimisharan, and he's the person who asks the questions that sets the basis of the Bhagavatam. He's considered to be an example of Jigyasur. The third is Artharthi. Artharthi is one who is desiring wealth. So they are not really distressed, they are not really inquisitive, they just have a desire for more opulence. Right? And the example for that is Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was upset at his stepmother and at his father. So he had this resolve that I would get a kingdom greater than my father, greater than my grandfather, and then he started worshipping the Lord. So that is an example of one who approaches the Lord desiring for wealth, Artharthi. And the fourth is the Jnani. So Jnani is one who is at the state of Atmagyan, who already knows he is not the body, he is the soul, he is Nishkam, so he has matured to the point where his material desires are controlled, and he is now approaching the Lord. So Sukadeva Goswami is an example of this. He himself says in the Bhagavatam that I was perfectly situated in my realization of the self as an Atmagyan, but when he heard Bhagavatam, then he became attracted to it. So these four kinds of devotees are Mishra Bhaktas. So Mishra Bhaktas mean that while they are executing devotion, it is mixed with desires. Right? So the first three kinds are karma mishra bhaktas, because they are looking for something material, whether it is relief from distress, whether it is inquisitiveness, whether it is wealth. So they're looking for something material. So they're called karma mishra bhakta. The fourth type, the jnani, is a jnana mishra bhakta, where the devotion is still contaminated by the knowledge of the self, the Atma-gyan. And later on in the 8th chapter, verse 12, Krishna will speak about the Yoga Mishra Bhakta, where the devotion is mixed with the performance of Astanga Yoga. So Krishna is first introducing Bhakti as Mishra Bhakti, because that's what people will move to. From a material platform, they will not go to a platform of pure devotion, which is known as Keval Bhakti or Shuddha Bhakti, where devotion is completely free from any material desires. And the very first verse in this chapter, Maya Sakta Mana Prana, where Krishna talks about pure devotion there, he also talks about pure devotion later on in the 8th chapter, verse 14, Ananyas Chetara Satatam. In the 9th chapter, verse 13, Mahatmana tu Tumam Partha. And in 922, Ananyas Chintayantos Mam. So at different appropriate time, Krishna does expose us to Shuddha Bhakti. And pure devotional service is Anyavilashida Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, where there is no material desires, Jnana Karmadhyanavritam. There is no, it's not contaminated with knowledge, with karma, adi, yoga, etc. And the only desire is to serve Krishna favorably. And now, in addition to these two kinds of bhakti, Mishra Bhakti and Shuddha Bhakti, there is a third kind that is known as Guni Bhuta Bhakti. And this is also mixed bhakti, but the component of bhakti is very small. In Mishra Bhakti that Krishna is speaking about here, bhakti has a very strong component. Even though it is mixed, there is a very strong component of bhakti. Like we see Dhruva Maharaj worshipping without deviation Krishna or Lord Vishnu, even though it's for material gains. We see Gajendra Moksha, he is reciting these wonderful verses only towards Lord Vishnu. So it is focused bhakti driven by some material desires. But then there is also those people who actually primarily focus on karma or gyan or yoga, and there is a minor component of bhakti. So these are known as Guni Bhuta Bhakti. And depending on the type of devotion that one is practicing, one gets a different destination. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary expands on it a little bit. So he says that those who perform sakam karma, so this is simply following the materialistic aspect of the Vedas, the Karmakand part, their destination is Svarga. Those who perform Nishkam karma, their destination is Gyan Yoga. So they mature into Atma Gyan. Those who perform Gyan Yoga and Astang Yoga, their destination is Nirvan Moksha, which is impersonal liberation. So these are all, the first three are categories in which bhakti is a minor component. Right? It's Guni Bhuta Bhakti. So it's there, but it's very, 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 very minor. Now we come to where bhakti is more prominent. So the first three kinds of practitioners over here, the Sakam Bhakti, the Karma Mishra Bhakti, they, as the result of the perfection, they get Salokya Mukti, which means that Salokya means that they go back to Godhead and they attain the same planet as Krishna. Right? And from there is no fall down. So they get liberated to the same planet as Krishna. Right? So this is the Artho, Artharthi and Jigyasu. The fourth kind, the Jnana Mishra Bhakti, they are even superior to the first three kinds because they are already on the platform of Atmagyan and they attain Shantarati. So Shantarati is one of the five mellows. The Shantaras is the mode of neutrality. It is superior to Salokya because in Salokya there is no personal association of Krishna. So while they are on the same planet, they may see Krishna at a distance or they may not. But in Shantarati, one actually gets an opportunity to associate with Krishna even though it's in the mood of neutrality. Then Vishwanath Chakravarti also says that it's also possible that those who are performing Karma Mishra Bhakti, they by the association of advanced devotees may go to a higher mellow, which means they may then start performing Shuddha Bhakti. And the same thing is true for Jnana Mishra Bhakti also, that by the association of devotees or by past impressions, they may get elevated to higher platforms. So this is the first technical introduction to Bhakti, and we will see Krishna and the Acharyas expanding on it in the subsequent verses. Okay, next verse. Verse 17. Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir visheshyate priyo hi jnani noti artham aham sacha mama priya. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So we see that amongst the four that Krishna spoke about in the previous verse, he is singling out the Jnani. So Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta. Because the Jnani is at the stage of Nishkam. So Krishna is once again showing his fondness for those who have attained the stage of Nishkam. And from a more practical perspective, the person who is a Jnani, who has reached Atmagyan, he is already transcending the material conception. So the Kama Mishra Bhakti part of it has gone. There is still the contamination of Gyan, but the gross material desires that have already been purified by the prolonged execution of Nishkam Karma. So Krishna is saying that I am the object of love for such a Jnani, because he sees the self as the soul and sees me as the supreme soul. And because of that, he is immersed in the nectar of the ocean of love for me. Now one might say that why is Krishna showing partialities? So all four, he said, are Sukritana. Artho, Arthati, Jigyasu and Jnani. All four are Sukritana. Now he is singling out one, showing that he has special favor. Right? And Acharya said there is no favoritism over here. Krishna has already said, Ye athamam prapadyante. As they surrender to me, I respond accordingly. So because the Jnani is surrendering without material desires, driven by Eka Bhakti, by the predominance of Bhakti, Krishna is reciprocating. So Srila Prabhupada says, but in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of the Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. So Prabhupada talks about the other aspect, that such a devotee will not fall, because the cause of the fall of the devotees is material contamination. That while they're executing bhakti, they may get, their senses might get attracted to something, and that might cause them to deviate. But because such a person has already transcended material desires, then such a person will not fall, which is another reason why he is dear to Krishna. Okay, next verse. Verse 18. Udara sarva eva yate jnane tvatma eva me matam astita sahi yuktatma mamevanutamam gatim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So after the previous verse, Arjun might ask that you're favoring the fourth, the Jnani. What about the other three? So Krishna here, he's giving assurances to the other three categories, right? He says Udara Sarva Eva Ete, that even they are Udara. Udara means that they are magnanimous. Why does he call them magnanimous? And this is Krishna's humility. So he's calling them magnanimous because they are setting aside their own material personal gain to turn to Krishna. Right? That's why Krishna says that they're magnanimous. Now, practically speaking, this is all for the benefit of the jivas. But Krishna, out of humility, says that because in some way or the other they're coming to me, I consider them to be magnanimous. So magnanimous means one who is who's broad-minded, charitable, who is looking at the big picture, takes the high road. So that's magnanimity, right? And Krishna is saying they're magnanimous because out of their magnanimity they are somehow coming to me, right? So we see how the humility of Krishna, and also how happy he is when the jivas somehow or the other are turning towards him. But again here he reinforces his special affection for those who are Atmagyanis, right? So he says that they are specially dear to me. How dear? So he says that Eva, he says that Eva me, that I consider them to be just like me. Now this does not mean that they become Krishna, right? Because that would defeat the whole basis of devotion. But saying so, like even in more material terms, sometimes we say that this person is very dear to me. I consider him just like myself. Or sometimes they will say that you give this person the same kind of respect that you give me, or you treat the person just like me. So that does not mean that one is saying that there is the distinction between the two is lost. It is a demonstration of extreme affection, right? And the result of this is that such a person will attain Krishna, right? So in these set of verses, Krishna has established the omnipresence of him, how he is present everywhere. He also speaks about how the curtain of Maya covers a person, how the Maya made of the weaving of the three strands of the material nature is difficult to overcome. But then he also talks about how by surrendering to Krishna, one can overcome. He talks about the four kinds of people that are unable to surrender to him because of some material absorption, whether they are infatuated with material desires, whether they are mental speculators, atheists or impersonalists. And then he also talks about the four kinds of fortunate people who do surrender to him. And of the four kinds, he talks about his special affection to one who has reached the stage of Atmagyan by the performance of Nishkam Karma. Okay, so we'll stop over here and resume our discussion from verse 19 next time. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.